Welcome to this explainer. I'm so thrilled you're here, because today we're going to deconstruct something genuinely fascinating. Have you ever been scrolling through your feed, listening to a speech, or watching a debate, and suddenly you just feel your blood pressure rising? You get this immediate, almost overwhelming pull to jump into the comments, to argue, or maybe to aggressively agree? Well, what if I told you that reaction is often entirely by design? Today, we're breaking down the hidden mechanics of social persuasion. We're going straight to the source material to examine a literal blueprint designed specifically to manufacture social tension. It's a highly effective, deeply structured rhetorical machine, and once you see how it's built, I promise you, you're going to start noticing it absolutely everywhere. Nobody wants to admit this. Just sit with those words for a second. Think about how that phrase instantly makes you lean in. It's a hook, right? When a speaker uses this phrase, they're immediately signaling to you that they are about to drop some forbidden knowledge. They're painting themselves as this brave truth teller, and simultaneously making you the privileged insider who's about to hear it. It creates a sudden, almost irresistible psychological gap that you just have to fill. It completely bypasses your critical filter because your brain is way too busy anticipating a secret. Okay, let's dive into this. Based on our source material, we can give this a formal name. We're looking at what's defined as the uncomfortable truth template. And it's explicitly categorized as a high debate trigger. So this isn't for casual chats about the weather. This template is a precision tool deployed for massive, complex, socially charged topics. We're talking broad societal issues, African development, or deeply entrenched power structures. It takes these massive, multifaceted debates and funnels them into a highly reactive, incredibly persuasive script. To truly understand how this machine works, we've got to take it apart. The source material outlines 4 distinct, chronological steps. First, tension. Second, escalation. Third, the payoff. And finally, the brilliantly manipulative loop ending. Let's break them down. Step 1. Manufacturing tension. The entire goal of this first phase is to isolate the audience and hint at a topic that's supposedly willfully ignored by the mainstream. Here's the first part of the example from our source. Nobody wants to admit this about African development. Notice how the speaker isn't citing a study yet? By attaching this framing to a complex topic, they instantly command authority. They're putting anyone who might disagree on the defensive before the argument even begins. Step 2. The escalation pivot. Once that tension is set, the speaker cranks up the heat by setting up a false dichotomy. The script usually goes something like this. We keep blaming this surface issue, but the real problem is this deeper issue. It's a classic rhetorical bait and switch. They acknowledge a universally recognized problem, only to just swat it away, claiming they have a much superior vision. So, when we apply this to our highly charged example, it reads, "We blame corruption, but ignore dependency." We can see the template executing perfectly right here. Corruption acts as the widely acknowledged surface issue, while dependency is introduced as the deeper systemic reality. It practically forces the listener to abandon the old conversation and fight entirely on the provocateur's newly drawn battleground. Step 3. Delivering the bold payoff. All right, so the tension has been built, the pivot has been made, and now the speaker requires a heavy rhetorical pause to raise the stakes to their absolute maximum. The script reads, "And until we face this, nothing will change, because of this reason." The provocateur is basically claiming that any inaction, any disagreement, practically guarantees societal failure. They're backing the listener right into a corner to accept their premise. In our real-world example, this stake raising sounds exactly like this. Until Africa builds for itself, nothing changes. That abstract reason from the template is filled in with the concept of self-reliance. It validates the previous escalation and packages the whole thing into a hard-line, definitive statement that serves as the ultimate springboard. And here is the rhetorical climax of the entire script. The truth is, insert clear, bold insight. This is the drop. After leading the audience through a maze of tension and pivots, the speaker delivers a punchy, perfectly engineered soundbite. And by explicitly labeling it the truth, well, they leave absolutely no room for nuance. The insight has to be clear, it has to be bold, and it has to sound like a profound revelation. The truth? Control of production is power. Notice how definitive that is? It literally distills an incredibly complex historical debate into a 6-word maxim. When it's delivered at the very end of this chain, it lands with the weight of an undeniable law of nature. Step 4. The loop ending trap. Now, most arguments would just end right after that bold insight. But the Provocateur includes a really sneaky failsafe, designed to build a sort of psychological cage. They finish with, but like I said, nobody wants to admit this. This brings the listener right back to the initial tension. Think about it. If you try to argue against their bold insight now, your disagreement is instantly repurposed as proof that you just don't want to admit it. It's a completely closed loop. Anatomy of a debate trigger. The complete machine. And this brilliantly illustrates the entire blueprint side by side. We have the raw script structure, the setup, the pivot, and the payoff mapped perfectly over our example. Taking the topic of African development, pivoting from corruption to dependency, and delivering the absolute claim that control of production is power. By comparing them directly like this, you can clearly see how this template is just waiting to be filled with literally any polarizing topic. The content changes for sure, but the persuasion math, it remains exactly the same. Which brings us to our final takeaway. As focused learners, our goal isn't just to absorb information, but to really understand how information is structured to influence us. So the next time you feel your pulse quicken during a debate, or you see a post that feels incredibly brave and contrarian, just pause. Ask yourself, are you engaging with a raw, undeniable truth, or are you simply falling for a perfectly engineered provocateur's template? Keep your eyes open and keep analyzing the structures around you. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.